Okay, bearing in mind that while they were trying all of these milk formulas, okay, which were all Nutricia products, I had been talking to one of the head nutritionists at Nutricia, okay, and when we had the meeting on the time that they uplifted her on the 30th of March, okay, I bring up the fact that the head nutritionist wrote me out an email to read out to him. So I read this out to him, and I turned around and says, now, don't you find it strange that here you are saying that what we're mixing up should not go through the tube? And he goes, well, it's true. What you're mixing up has not been tested to go through that tube for feeding. And I said, yes, and what I've just read out to you from this lady is none of our products should be going through a tube of that sort. So I turned around.
Sorry, what night was this? What day before?
This was on Friday night, Friday the 28th of February 2020.
So they wanted your granddaughter to suffer for 4 days before they even wanted to see her.
Yes, and that is exactly what happened, because I said to them, well, if you're not going to let her come in, then we're going to bring her down to A&E. The response was, if you bring her to A&E, we will tell them to refuse to see her.
G'day, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with Brent. Where did it start first for you? What was your first steps? And
okay, so the first interaction was
bit of a background.
Yeah, so the first interaction with them was like when it came to dealing with our case. The first interaction came when it came from medical staff, DHB. Okay, the unfortunate thing is that when it comes to doctors, what they tend to seem to do is when they can't figure out what's going on with a patient, rather than try and work with a family, if what they put in place is not working, to them it seems to be, okay, no, this is what I studied, it should work. Never mind the fact that it's not working. And so we were put in the predicament, or our whanau was put in the predicament of the doctor decided, okay, if the things don't go to plan in the next week, that they would make a report of concern.
Sure.
However, when a doctor at a DHB or any member of DHB is going to make a report of concern and tell you that in a week's time if things are not working out, that should be where it stands in a week's time, not like back in November the 4th, November the 6th, 2019. To say a week's time would make it the 11th or the 18th of November, not October the 16th, a month before. So when you find these sort of things out from Official Information Act files, and you're trying to figure out what's the best way to go, and you've got medical professionals that are stating to agencies like OT that this whanau will not follow medical plans and stuff like that, it makes it very hard when they've already turned around and put you guilty a month before. And so it becomes a case of what do you do? So basically, the storyline goes...
Sort of putting the cart before the horse, really, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. And I think the hard thing for them to accept was because one of their medical people came straight out and told us, I don't know what to do at the moment. When you've got that sort of answer, and so you try and figure out, okay, what do we do in this week that they're saying they can't do anything, and you put something together that starts to work, and all of a sudden you start seeing progress. It doesn't look good when Western ideology medicine hasn't worked for the 6 months prior, and basically you've come up with a concoction, a homemade concoction that started to work. And so it's like, well...
And this is because the granddaughter wasn't orally eating, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Well, what they said was she wasn't orally eating. Okay. That was incorrect. We told them that she does orally take a small amount, but she nibbles. And the hard part, like I tried to get them to do back then was, okay, could you reduce down the intake to allow, like any human being, if you've got too much liquid going into you, you will never have the room to take the oral food. Sure. Doesn't matter how much you try. And so I tried to explain to them that what we had done was basically we had reversed what they had said to do. So rather than, okay, to give a time frame for a child to eat really is ridiculous. Okay, the children, children are just going to eat at their own speed.
Yeah.
And so to say to say to a parent, well, give them 10 to 15 minutes. I mean, even at school, they don't eat in that time. They're too busy playing. But, like even for a young child, they're not going to eat in that time frame. Okay, they're going to eat how they want to eat.
Yeah,
and so to turn around and state it to someone.
They want to play with their food before.
That's right. They want to get used to it. Yeah, they're getting used to the texture and everything like that, as they're growing. So basically, that was what it came down to, was a case of found something that worked. She had our grandchild had been eating, okay, orally. Everybody was stating, no, she shouldn't be doing this. She shouldn't be doing this. Okay, it needs to be get the weight up, the weight and the health up first before doing so. Okay, but how do you do that when they claimed that the concoction we came up with, yes, it was putting on the weight, but it wasn't nutritionally complete. However, when they wanted to put her onto a certain formula, that wasn't nutritionally complete. So we just couldn't see the difference, besides the fact that we had her gain 2.4 kilos in 3 months. Okay, and when you take that opposed to the fact that the hospital was 200 grams in 6 months.
Wow.
Okay, there's a big difference.
Yeah, so what you were doing?
And so.
What you were doing?
Well, yeah, we actually had we actually had a picture taken. Like the hospital DHBs, they have people that calibrate the scales, and so I turn around and I rang the place that does them and said to them, "Is there any possibility we could just bring it down to be able to see what she comes up on your guys' scales?" Because that particular morning she had come up at 9.5 kgs on the scales that came here.
Yeah.
The problem was we went out to our doctors after that, okay, which is just local, put her on the digital scales they got, 10.1. So we're like 600 gram difference. How?
Well,
and
I would
we turn around.
I would think, Brent, the best plan is to stick to the same set of scales every damn time. That way, you're getting an accurate reading from the same scale.
Yeah, and that's the case. But the problem we seem to have found was, and we put this to them as well, okay, we went to our doctors, 10.1, went to another medical centre close by, 10.1, went to the place that calibrates the Wellington DHB and Lower Hutt DHB scales. They calibrated one while we waited just to make sure it was perfect, 10.7. But then the guy did say to us, you've got to take into account 300 to 400 grams worth of clothing. So about 10.3 to 10.4, which we thought, okay, that's fine. But that still makes the scales that came to our house to weigh it 800 to 900 grams out.
Okay.
So it was like, okay, we're talking nearly a kilo. So the argument I put across to them was, how do you know you're treating her for the right thing when you're out by 800 to 900 grams?
Fair enough.
You're treating her for one weight, and she's actually another. So how does that work out? And the bad part really for the whole thing is this: she's never ever, and they're still today, no diagnosis. Okay, they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
They literally do not know what it is. Okay, the last meeting we had, I think it was early February, still no diagnosis. Okay, it could be a multitude of things.
This is why
I put this question.
This is why they practice medicine. They don't perfect it. It's all guesswork, and it's why a different doctor will give a different diagnosis.
Yeah, but when you've got 4 different doctors that are giving the same answer, then what's up with that? As I said, I've said all along, not a medical professional myself, okay, but just really tried to use common sense to try and solve the problem, because all we could see was we weren't getting anywhere with Western ideology medicine. Okay, and when you've got a child that they want to put through an operation because of it, okay, and because the doctors didn't bother telling the surgeon that the child had eaten orally in the past. And then we had a meeting beginning of July last year, and I brought that up. all of a sudden that became a problem in regards to the surgery, because the surgery they wanted to do was to close the top of the stomach off. Okay, and in doing so, most of the time it's irreversible. Okay, you might be lucky to be able to get it undone, or the other thing that can happen is it's done by 3 staples around the top of the stomach. What we were saying was, but there's no need for that because she's eaten orally. As soon as I said that, the man who was going to perform the surgery looked at the doctor and said, hey, you didn't tell me this child has eaten orally in the past.
Exactly.
And so that sort of like, the room sort of went quiet a little bit. And he turned around and said, we don't do these operations on children that have eaten orally. It doesn't matter whether it's a little bit. What he was basically getting at to us was, unless the child's had no food orally, that's when we perform them.
Right.
So it was a case of, okay, so where do we go from here? So he ended up doing an endoscopy 4 days later. Okay, the social worker and the doctor were adamant, no, she's got to have the surgery. Okay, and he confirmed 4 days later after the endoscopy with a report, this child was not in need of that at all. She did not have what they were claiming she had. And I turned around at that meeting and asked him to please consider changing her to soy-based formula, because when we had her on a cow's milk with our concoction, okay, she still threw up a little bit. My partner suggested changing the milk to soy. Throwing up went away altogether. No throwing up at all.
I actually.
They finally decided.
Just on a side note, there, I actually had a very similar thing with our daughter. She wouldn't take the normal formula. We ended up having to buy the goat's milk formula, and that's the only thing she would take. Every kid.
Now, the strange part about this has been that when I asked about having her changed over to the soy milk, the soy-based formula, okay, they turned around and 3 days later they changed her to it, and they said, unfortunately, because in the meeting, the doctor said to me, not the surgeon, but the doctor, he said to me, but if this doesn't work within a week, you're not going to accept our answer, are you, that it hasn't worked? I said, no, and there's a reason why I'm not going to accept that, and that is because I know I could take her home and I could feed her up because we've already done it. And I said to him, you see, the problem is you keep wanting to go on the test, because long as you're here, I'm talking the proven side. I'm not talking the let's test and see how it goes here. And as I said to him, I've never said to you guys, our whanau has never said, don't do it the way you're doing. What we're saying is, this is what we found worked. Is there anything in Western ideology medicine, because you won't pay attention to us, is there anything in Western ideology medicine that can do the same thing? Okay, bearing in mind that while they were trying all of these milk formulas, okay, which were all Nutricia products, I had been talking to one of the head nutritionists at Nutricia, okay, and when we had the meeting on the time that they uplifted her on the 30th of March, okay, I bring up the fact that the head nutritionist wrote me out an email to read out to him. So I read this out to him, and I turned around and says, now, don't you find it strange that here you are saying that what we're mixing up should not go through the tube? And he goes, well, it's true. What you're mixing up has not been tested to go through that tube for feeding. And I said, yes, and what I've just read out to you from this lady is none of our products should be going through a tube of that sort. So you're telling us, you're saying that, yes, the whole time. Yes, the whole time. We ended up.
You think they would check that if they go?
Oh no! You see, the difference was, okay, it states on the Nutricia site, if the doctor is willing to take the responsibility on himself, then that is fine, okay. But it also states on the Starship side that if a whanau is wanting to feed a homemade blend, they must be made aware of the risks, and if they are quite happy to go with those risks, then it is fine. But no, they wouldn't accept that. Why? I can only put it down to the fact it wasn't a medical professional that said it was okay. But yet today, okay, she is still on a little bit of those feeds through tube. Okay, our homemade concoction, I call it a shake. Okay, was we were told did not meet the nutritional requirements. However, this is the strange part. We were told by the doctor that let us use the shake for a little while. And we have this confirmed in writing, okay, that over the 2019-2020 Christmas period, the doctor she had then quoted himself, this child has made good catch-up gains on the homemade shake. Okay. They got us in January. He said, okay, would you give us the recipe for the shake? I said, not a problem. Okay. I even said to him, if it's missing anything, tell us, we'll add it in. Okay. They told us it needed a multivitamin because it was not nutritionally complete. We got my daughter bought a $60 multivitamin she had to buy. That went in all the time. Gains got better and better. But all of a sudden, the doctor realized I've got the backing of the Oranga Tamariki social worker. Okay. And then things changed. It was, no, we've got to go to this. No, we've got to go to that. Okay. When they decided to make this change, they turn around, they put on a product called Peptamin Junior. Okay. Now it has roughly 9.7 grams of iron in it. Okay. None of the females on the female side of our family can handle iron. Okay. My daughter had an iron infusion when she was pregnant. Okay. Because the hospital recommended it. 24 hours later, emergency C-section. Okay. Because the iron had got into baby and nearly killed her as well. Okay. Way too much iron. My argument with them was about the Peptamin Junior. There was 9.7 grams in the milk powder of iron. They were adding in 3 milligrams of ferritin. Okay. Then they had another product that was going into it, which brought it up by another 2.1 grams. Okay. So in that one lot of and we had to mix it in a litre. Okay. Which is what we were doing. The problem was, if you look up iron, 14.8 milligrams a day is what a 14-year-old needs, not a 28-month-old.
Wow.
So what happened was, when we got that, which was on the 28th of February in 2020, okay, we got that new feeding plan. What happened was, all of a sudden, early evening that evening, baby screaming in pain, throwing herself around like that little girl on the Exorcist movie. Okay, and we're trying to figure out what's going on here. Okay, and all she kept on saying, bum, 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 bum. Okay, so
wanted no doubt constipation and want to have a shit because of all the iron. She couldn't.
She ended up, what ended up happening was the hospital said, okay, you need to get laxatives, and they gave her a prescription to go down to the chemist and get it. So she got that, did absolutely nothing. Okay, so the only other thing they could suggest was get a suppository. So we did that, got the suppository and put it. Luckily, it was a liquid one and not a solid one. Okay, we called the social worker, told her what was going on, literally begged her not to make us carry on this plan, and she could hear us screaming in the background. No, I'm sorry, you must follow the plan. Okay, so I said to my daughter, ring the hospital, tell them we need to bring her in urgently. Something's very wrong when she's had a lactose at the top end and a suppository at the bottom end, and she still can't go. Okay, so she rang the hospital. Sorry, you have an appointment on Tuesday. Bring her in then. We can't accept her before that. Okay. So I turned around.
Sorry, what night was this? What day before?
This was on Friday night, Friday the 28th of February 2020.
So okay. They wanted your granddaughter to suffer for 4 solid days before they even wanted to see her.
Yes, and that is exactly what happened, because I said to them, well, if you're not going to let her come in, then we're going to bring her down to A&E. The response was, if you bring her to A&E, we will tell them to refuse to see her.
Are you kidding me?
That's they would not let her come in.
They can't refuse medical treatment to someone that's in pain.
Yep, and so we said, fine, we'll go to the after hours. Apparently, they were going to contact them and let them know not to deal with it.
So they're cutting off all your lifelines before you even get to go. I wouldn't bother telling them where I'm going. I'd just go.
Yeah, so what ended up happening was we did the best we could over that weekend. We finally got her there on the Tuesday. We went to this meeting that they organised with both whanau supposed to be there. Okay, we were all there. Okay, yes, back then I reacted a lot differently, and I turned around and said, well, basically, what the F is going on? My granddaughter's screaming in pain. Why can't you do something? Okay, and they wanted to talk about it more than do anything. So my daughter said, look, if I run her up to the children's ward now, will they give her some attention straight away? She was told yes. As soon as she heard that, she bolted from the room and she ran her all the way to the children's ward. Myself and my partner finished up with this because the social worker came to this meeting. Okay, they still weren't willing to do anything. Okay, still followed the plan. We went upstairs to the children's ward, and all we could hear was our granddaughter screaming down the ward. Okay, went into the room where we were told she was. Or actually, we had to wait by the fish tank part first. Then we got sent down to the like a baby ICU little ward in a room where they isolate them. So she got put down in there. They closed the door so she couldn't really be heard. Over the next 2 hours, my partner and my daughter went down and begged the nurses and the social workers who were sitting down. All I know is they were sitting in a room talking about what they were going to do. Weren't interested in giving her any treatment to get her out of the pain. Okay. When they finally came down, my daughter, we all just said, look, we're not talking to you about anything until you get something done for her. Look at her, she's screaming in pain. And like we got sick of it, so we opened the big sliding door and just let her scream down the ward. Because I mean, like she was literally throwing herself backwards like this, trying to get and just screaming, bum bum, couldn't do anything. And then finally they gave her, they finally gave her a bit of pain relief.
Yeah.
And then what ended up happening was they admitted her into the ward. Okay. Come the next day, they still couldn't figure out how to get the basically what she ended up with. She had so much iron, her body ended up creating a lump inside of the bowel that couldn't be broken down. Ooh. Okay, so it's a condition called fecal impaction. Now you know how when you see like a snake eat something big, that's how the stomach goes in through your bowels.
Ooh.
Yeah, so she had that stuck inside of her, okay, and she couldn't get it out. And like I had turned around and said to the doctor the next morning when we went down, look, could you just do me a small favor? And he goes, what's that? I said, yeah, well, okay, she came in Tuesday. It's now Thursday. Okay, still, she's in pain, screaming. Oh. He goes, yeah, would you just do me a favor and put her on Endolite for 24 hours and cut out the milk formula? Because Endolite's like Gastrolite, okay? And I said, just put her on Endolite for 24 hours, okay? And see how she goes, because she's likely to pass the bowel motion through. And like we went home, and they agreed to do it, so we went home, and my daughter was still there with her because they were admitted, obviously. And what ended up happening was the next morning at 10 o'clock, my daughter sends me a picture on Messenger of 10 full nappies in the cot. And she said, and she rang me, she goes, Dad, she finally got it out. And we went down to the hospital, and I said to the doctor, thank you for listening. And he goes, what made you say to do that? I said, I would have done it myself, but the problem is OT was stopping us doing anything. I said, and the last thing I wanted to risk was our granddaughter getting uplifted because we didn't do that plan. Okay. And he turned around and says, okay. I said, but all we're asking you to do is, okay, we've had a bit of experience with what's going on. We're just saying, this is our experience. Will it help you to help her? Okay. And so they ended up turning around and wanting to put her on Peptamin Junior at that time because they realized the Peptamin she couldn't have. And I said to them, okay, look, even the Peptamin Junior, okay, the lady has turned around and said, don't use these things through the tube. Okay, if that's the case, because she literally told us that, okay, if they're going to use these things, you're better off to go and get the milk powder from the supermarket. I was like, yeah. She goes, because, okay, that will give baby everything that she needs. So I was like, yeah. Whereas what they're trying to use, you have to use supplements with them. And I was like, oh, okay. And she goes, yeah. So she said, just go and get this one. So we went down to the local countdown, we bought it, and we came back to the hospital. We said, could you please use this one? This is what has been suggested. Okay. And so he put her on that. He said, okay, he would agree to it. So he put her on that. And then she still had a bit of throwing up, but it was way less than what it was before. Okay. Like once her bowels had cleared, she was able to put on the weight. And see, at the whole time, she's had, where did I put this now? She's been on what? Close to 18 months of maybe a bit longer laxatives daily.
Wow.
Okay. She can't pass a bowel motion without laxatives because of what they're doing.
Because of the iron content.
So she has to have laxatives. It's because pretty much when you're on a laxative and you've been on it for a long time, it starts to paralyze your bowel. Okay. And so laxatives, they turn around and they give the coating on the bowel so that it can pass through. The problem is once you get the coating on the bowel, Okay, so when you get stuff go through your stomach, it goes past your pancreas. Okay, and a little bit of the food will go into your pancreas, and the pancreas will activate the bowels. Okay, or the intestines, tube things. Okay, and that's how once the pancreas is activated, basically what happens is the bowels, they start to absorb all the nutrients. Okay, but when you give a laxative, it lines the bowel so you don't get your nutrients. So therefore, you can't put on weight. Yeah. So I'm just going to delete this. Get out of there. Get. Yeah. Basically, what's ended up happening was, yeah. So basically, where things have got to is when we dealt with the surgeon, he actually wanted to send her home with us for 2 weeks to see how it went. He actually asked the OT social worker, "Is there any middle ground here?" She refused to answer it. Okay.
Wow.
Because they don't want to be able to show that what we were doing was working. Okay. But I can honestly say, as at the time she got uplifted to now, the total gain she has had under OT care, 480 grams over the last year.
So it's less than half.
Okay. And
wow.
Yeah.
That's disgraceful.
And so it's sort of, in a way, it peeves me off because like last February, she was 10.7 and going by the way things were progressing, she would have been at her age weight by about another 3 months after that. But they stopped it all. And what they can't seem to see is that, okay, when it comes to your nutrition, you need your nutrition at that age to develop. Okay. And when you've got a child that's okay, when she has just had a feed, running around for half an hour, no problem. Okay, she's fine. Okay, but because of the diet they have her on, no kid can live on crackers, biscuits, chippies, and that's her main source of meal that she's getting from the caregiver.
That's ridiculous.
So where is she ever going to be able to get the good nutrition from? Okay, but my biggest argument with them has always been, okay, well, you said that our mixture didn't have the nutrition that she was needed, you know, but going by the fact that she still needs to have that multivitamin, neither does yours. You've got something that's commercially prepared, but it's not nutritionally complete. So it's becoming a case of...
You've actually got that footage for sitting there for 2 hours of the baby screaming. I think we can throw that in here too.
This is the outcome of when you have a child that hasn't been able to pass a bowel motion for over 4 days and you are asking for help, and all the hospital wants to do is stick to their feeding plans. The child has had far too much iron over the last 3 or 4 days going on their plan, and she is finding it very, very hard to pass a bowel motion and has not passed one since around 10:15 on Friday morning, the 28th of February 2020. As you can see, the child is in a distressed state, and rather than having meetings and talking about plans, which is what the doctors are doing now, the child has to sit here and suffer because of it. This is why we are asking for government to step in and do something in regards to it.
Just for people.
Yeah. So she was sitting there for that amount of time. It was, and that's the exact time when she had the fecal impaction. That's what they made her do: sit there and wait like that for 2 hours. You know, and it's like, well, where's the humaneness in that? You know, you made her sit there screaming in pain, and you did nothing. You could have turned around and just given her some pain relief while you had your meeting about it, but you didn't even do that.
That's ridiculous.
But you know, it's good. Like later on, what ended up happening was, it was in July. We got the diet changed over to the soy.
Yep.
They said no, she's still throwing up. So I asked the question, how are you mixing the soy? Okay, and because I told them the best thing to do, she holds down Sanitarium So Good soy. Okay, so they decided it was a good idea to use Sanitarium So Good soy and mix in soy powder with it. And because like they were saying, she's throwing up a yogurt consistency. And I took one look at it because at that stage we were going and having contact in the hospital. And I took one look at it and said, okay, who mixed something with it? And the Kiwi she's got now said, that's how she always says it. Yeah, who mixed something with it? That's not straight So Good soy. And she goes, no, they mixed some powder in with it. I said, okay, so they concentrated it. And she goes, well, yeah. And I said, that's not what we asked them about. We said, can you change her over to a soy diet and she will start to gain? And I said, because she spewed while we were there. And I said, she's spewing because they concentrated it by putting whatever amount of scoops it is in, she goes, which then has gone and raised the pH level in it. And we know for a fact that she cannot handle anything lower than a pH level of 5. Because if you go from pH level 5, 4, 3, 2, okay, as you go from 5 to 4, you just increase the acidity of the mixture by 100%. Okay, you go down to level 3, pH level 3. Okay, you've just increased by 1,000%. Okay, you go to level 2, which was where it was at. It was now 3,000% more acidic than it should have been.
Wow.
Okay, and so we're trying to
in a hospital, and you expect them to know this shit.
Yeah, and as I put it to him in regards to the testing of it, because the doctor said, okay, well, it would have to be done in the hospital. I said, I agree with you 100%. And he goes, oh, really? Why is that? I said, because when we had the meeting on the 30th of March before she was uplifted, you told us that you could not be her doctor if we could not agree to the treatment, okay, that you were proposing. And I asked you, was it the same as lower heart? And he goes, yeah. And you said, yes. And I said, okay, you're expecting a whanau to accept the last 5 weeks worth of treatment that brought a child down by 2.4 kilos. And he goes,
all that weight.
well, we had to try and work it out. And I said, yes, but look at it from her point of view. Okay, her mother's thinking to herself, I can't leave my child on that same treatment plan because she just keeps going down. And he said, yeah. And I said to him, so what you're saying is if we can't agree to it and we can't agree to it as a whanau, you can't treat the child, right? And he goes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I said to him, right, is there any point in her being in your hospital if you can't treat her? And he goes, well, maybe not. I said, okay, so is there a problem with discharging her so we can get her fed back up again at home? Okay. And he said, well, if you discharge her, it'll be against medical advice. I said, we understand that, but you've got to understand that you want to go with a plan that's making this child lose weight and continuing to lose weight. And so he turned around and like my daughter ended up doing the discharge. Okay, and we came home, and then he gave an email about it. It was about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon to the OT social worker. Yep. That was put in with the application to be able to pick up the child.
Yep.
Okay, but the one thing I will give him is he did state in there he did not believe the child should be separated from her mother. He believed that the only guardianship was needed so that he could do the medical decisions because my daughter was saying no to it. So that was the only thing, in my opinion, he actually did right. Because the rest of it, they've really just from there tried to cover up their tracks. Like 8 days after the uplift, he emailed the social worker and she put on the case file that he had stated to her, what do we do if I can't prove this is a medical condition? And then about 8 weeks later, on the 20th of July, he did another communication to her stating that he now believed it was a non-organic medical condition and no whanau member was at fault.
Wow.
So I'm simply looking at it going, hold on a minute.
So why did
that's right. So I'm looking at it going, hold on, that means you took her granddaughter for no reason.
So there was absolutely no
because if
or had the social worker lied.
The social worker, okay, and we got a copy of the places safety warrant. We got a copy of the application for it. Okay, now how they do an affidavit, no affidavit was done. Okay, she did a statement in regards to it. That was it. Okay, but the thing that I reckon has to change under the Oranga Tamariki Act. Okay, Section 71 quite clearly states that as long as you put an order in front of a judge, you do not have to have any proof that that child needs care and protection.
So
So
they can just act without any evidence whatsoever.
Yep, and it actually does state that under Section 71. You're not required to give any evidence. The thing is, okay, the laws state that if they turn around and they get like a Section 39, which is the place of safety warrant, okay, the child has to be brought before, well, the case of the child needs to be brought before the court, okay, within 5 days under Section 45 of the Oranga Tamariki Act.
And did
Now, so because she was a baby, she had to go back into a hospital. The first thing they got to do under a Section 39 is they must do a Section 53, okay, and pretty sure it's Section 53, and go and get her medically checked, okay. Now, this was done. However, the child had apparently got adenovirus coming through the hospital. The very strange part was she went through a COVID testing station, okay. To make matters worse, my daughter and my granddaughter had to sit in the A&E for 2.5 hours waiting to go back to the ward. Okay, it wasn't a straight back in. From there, they had to be isolated because she had been tested and come back with adenovirus. Problem is, adenovirus has exactly the same symptoms as COVID. So it makes me wonder whether it was actually adenovirus.
Yeah, so does the flu.
So she got isolated. Yeah, so they got isolated in a room, and yeah, it's just bit by bit it has gone with the doctor that she had, and because the doctor that she had ended up wanting to get her out from under his care and back to Lower Hutt, because it became obvious from what we were doing that they were going to become answerable, because they've they've tried to hide too much, way too much, okay, and it's got to the stage where, because we use only official information act files as evidence, okay, it's got to the stage where Oranga Tamariki just can't even answer an affidavit. I mean, I don't know how they're supposed to, like, we put it together like that because number one, the judge back in 2019, he stated that in the one of the hearings I went to, that he has to pay attention to professional evidence. So that's why we put that in front of him. The problem was when we went to court in March, there was going to be no hearing date for this year at all. Maybe early 2022. Okay. Yet last year he had stated it would come into the court for a hearing late February, early March. Didn't happen. Okay. So because of all of the mucking around that was going on with dates, and they so-called couldn't find any dates, okay, when me and my partner, I got myself and my partner into the case. So we went in on about 3-4 weeks ago on the Wednesday for our court case. And I put it, by that stage, I was pretty much sick and tired of the way court was going. So I just put it to him straight out. Okay, if you're not going to make the right decision today, you're going to the High Court to file permit brought in there. His answer to me was, that's fine, you can do that. I will. Okay, still no date given, right? Filed an originating application in the High Court. My daughter did, okay, because I filled out all the paperwork for her and how to deal with it. Filed that. Strange how the next morning, less than 12 hours later, we've got a date for a set hearing.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, so you've actually got to go and pretty much threaten the court with, I'll take this higher before they will do anything. And so it's sad that you have to do that, because it should just be dealt with in the proper way, instead of judges thinking that, and I put this, and I've heard this before, this is my courtroom and I'll run it the way I want to. Well, to me, no, it's not the courtroom.
I think I might just have Tim Black saying that exact same phrase to me.
30 seconds and I'm entering a deed not guilty plea. I'm not having this conversation. I'm not wasting my time. I'm entering a plea on behalf of you know. Yeah, because you're refusing to enter a plea. Are you practicing law from the bench, right? I think you can't. Are you practicing law from the bench? Are you don't talk to me like that, Mr. King. I hold you in contempt and have you detained. Stop wasting my time entertaining a discussion about jurisdiction today, Mr. King. Why is that? This is my court, and I run it in the way I see fit. And if you don't like it, you can leave.
Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Can I have a copy of the order that you issued the security and my recording equipment removed?
When I was standing in front of him, he goes, This is my
Yep.
courtroom, and I'll run it how I see fit. If you don't like it, you can leave. And that's how
Yep.
Kiwibank acts. And
Yeah.
it's
And
disgusting
so,
from the coach.
oh, it is. And so, I mean, like, I think they've got the idea now, because they've always said my daughter doesn't know how you put it. She doesn't know how to represent herself. She doesn't know the act. She doesn't know this. She doesn't know that.
She's a
So I
lame
put it to them on.
person. Yeah, she's a
So
lame
I put
person.
it to them on that Wednesday.
And
You
I
know,
point out the reason they do this shit, oh yeah, you can go into high
Yeah.
court, because it's just feeding the monster. If they dealt with things quickly and efficiently like they bloody well should, well, that's not going to feed the legal pocket, is it? The lawyer for child's not going to make any money. We'll just extenuate
No.
things as long as possible to keep feeding their coffers. And that's what goes on. Disgusting.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what goes on for sure. And
it
so
doesn't just
what
matter
we ended up
family
doing
court,
was
district court, high court, appeals, doesn't matter. They're happy for you to just keep going through the levels, up another level. They're still making money, and you're still losing money.
well, no,
Well, the
not
average
for
person
not,
to pay for a lawyer is what I mean. Not yourself. Done it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's why I said to my daughter to do it. Being clever. Okay, when you're on a benefit, you can get a fee waiver. So, as I said to her, okay, you might as well try it, because if we can get you in there and you can defend your child, why not? You're not getting heard properly in the lower court, so you might as well go to the higher court. And so we did that, and then like I say, he didn't come across as worried about it. But okay, if he wasn't so worried about it, then why was he waiting to release minutes before till after the high court date had been, and then release the minutes? And it's like, okay, so. The annoying thing about her case has been, okay, she went to go and do a contact hearing. Okay. Now, everybody's stating to her, no, she needed the psychological report, a 1782. Okay. Now, because we became parties to the case, I got a hold of yourself to find out what the legislation was I needed to find out. And then I put all of that in. Okay. And the court staff were quite cocky about it, like, you're not going to get this, you're not going to get that. Okay, it's like, look, that's fine. Okay, but I showed you the paper. But you've got to give it. I don't actually have to put a memorandum in to get it. But okay, if you're going to make me go the long way, well, we'll do that. Yeah. So they said, yeah, no, you're going to have to do a memorandum. So I did the memorandum. And then would have been about 4 or 5 days later, my daughter tells me, hey, Dad, have you got an email? And I was like, why is it? She goes, because I just got one from the court with the documents you asked for. And I was like, check my email. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, sweet, no problem. Yeah, okay. So if they ever want to bother trying to do that to me again, I'll just turn around and say, oh, do we really have to go through this again and put you in your place? Because, like, we ended up getting the report that I asked for, and it turns out it's the report that OT have been saying they're waiting on and they wanted her to do with consent. Okay, the report writer wrote up that it was a 178, a section 178, but she wrote in the first paragraph, this report is done pursuant to section 178/2. Okay. So they've been withholding her having unsupervised contact for well over a year. Since July last year, the report. Okay, so it's just under a year, sorry. But they're withholding it for no reason, on purpose. And it's like, well,
what do you
okay.
think the reason is behind that? Why do you think they were holding on to it and hiding it?
The same reason that lately, okay, now we all know how much OT redact out of an OIA. Okay.
just an end and an
so when they
rest is black.
Yeah, but so when they purposely leave information in it, okay, my only answer to that is they know they're going to lose, so they'd rather give us the information to make it look like we won in court, rather than them have to go, oh, we stuffed up.
Of course, they're covering.
But at the end of the day, I would be quite happy for them to go, she should come back to your guys' home. Okay, we made the mistake, but it's really hard when it comes to a government department to get them to grow a set of balls and do it. Well, that's really what it comes down to. And so, when it comes down to all of this,
they double down and then they triple down, and they're so freaking arrogant they will never admit wrong. They would just keep piling on the shit as heavy as they can.
Yeah. And I mean, you know when you're getting somewhere, when all of a sudden the one lawyer that's been involved all the time from OT then needs to hire up buddy, okay, then all of a sudden they have to get a QC involved, okay, and go to the High Court, okay, and then there's, I don't know who the other one is, but there's now a third lawyer involved below the QC.
Against a little old layperson, gee, you must be making waves.
So as I said to them at the Wednesday court that I went to, okay, so I'm going to make it very, very clear to everybody in this courtroom, because you guys all keep giving her communications stating that she has no idea what she's doing, okay, and that we have no idea what we're doing, okay. Well, here's the thing: when it comes down to having to bring this many lawyers into it, we must know something, because I can tell you right now, I probably know your act better than you do. Okay, so and I always say they fight everyone with 49 sections of their act, but there's well over 500 sections that altogether. So, and I always say this to people, on every act, always look for act binds the crown, because as long as it's got act binds the crown, okay, you can go back on them and rig it with it. And so, like while we've been waiting for our granddaughter's case to come back up for the hearing and because the judicial review is due in, when is it? I think it was a total of 34 days. So
that was about a week or two ago. So you're about halfway through the time.
Yeah, and so I know it's because as soon as we went and we got told what we needed to do, we filed the affidavit same afternoon. Went back and filed it. Okay, they had 15 days from then, and then it was another 7 days for her to respond. After that, it was another 7 days, and they would set the hearing date. So we were told it would probably be another 7 days after that. So the reality is, okay, after knowing how to get into the court now in the High Court, that's why I tell people, don't muck around with the family court. Go and take your case into the High Court and get it dealt with. Okay, you're not going to be waiting 6, 9, 12 years. Okay, you're going to get it over and done with maybe in 60 to 90 days if you can get it done correctly.
Yeah.
And there's all that.
What's the difference between family court and High Court? The big difference is family court don't give a flying fuck about evidence. It's ipsy dixit, meaning never said stands as fact. They can lie their asses off, but it's very hard to prove something that didn't happen. So, whereas in your High Court, they actually deal with evidence. They need evidence.
Yes, and I could actually say that, yes, after being in the back of the High Court and hearing it, okay, one of the, because it was weird, you know how in a family court they call case after case. It's not done like that. I didn't realize it wasn't done like that. So what they do is they get everybody from all the cases to come in, and they deal with them one by one while you're sitting there.
Yeah.
And so you get to hear about other things as well. It's like, oh, amazing. Okay. But the reality is the judge, or the justice, whatever you want to call it, okay, she was more, how can I put this? Yes, you're right. Okay, in the family court, it's all hearsay crap. Okay, the he said, she said. Okay, that judge was not interested in the he said, she said. Okay, you're going to file your evidence, they're going to file their evidence, and I'll go from there.
Because
they wasn't willing to listen to anything until such, and that was with all the cases that we were hearing in there. Okay, well, you'll have your chance to file your evidence, they will have their chance, and then I'll look at it from there. Okay, cool. But it was in a way it was good, because you like how you turn around and you'll say to the judge, okay, but what about this? And I go, no, it doesn't apply. Okay, I listened to a couple of cases in there, and a lady brought up about certain rules and stuff like that, and the justice said, okay, well, I'm not sure what you mean, would you like to clarify? So she turned around and clarified what she meant, and the justice lady turned around and says, true, okay, yeah, we'll move on from there.
Yeah.
And then, just to hear that kind of thing.
If you study the rule book long enough, you get to learn play the game better than they can. It's really that.
Yeah, but it was the fact that she was willing to listen and not just go, no, you're wrong.
Well,
okay. And then
I won't say ignorant, and I won't say stubborn or pig-headed or an arseholic type thing, but we'll just say they're not like Judge Black.
Exactly.
Right, Tim? Just in case you're watching, Timmy, g'day. Yep.
But so that's where we're at with our one at the moment. It's an originating application, in my opinion. Even if the High Court doesn't allow you to come in, it's amazing the waves it makes in the family court.
Oh, yeah.
Because even the minutes from back at that date were not released until he knew what was happening with that originating application.
So he's waiting to see what.
So, as I said,
yeah. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, and I mean, when it comes down to it, okay, for me, I would tell anybody to make that application if you're having problems, because it's very strange how all of a sudden when the judge in your case knows you've gone to the High Court, oh, I better fix my crap up really quick.
People that need to know this information. I mean, you've got that website up that shows you all of these documents. What's your website, Brent?
Yeah, there's a website called whanau against OT. Okay. And it's all spelt together, whanau against OT.
Yep.
And yeah, it does have all the different documents and stuff like that on there to be able to file in the court. But it's just, I feel it should be, it shouldn't be needed to have to go and force someone's hand to do the right thing. But unfortunately in this country it is. You know, the one thing that gets me is everybody goes on about the best interest of the child, safety of the child is paramount. Okay, they keep stating this, all of these lawyers, even the judge.
It's in the Care of Child Act, right at the start.
The thing is, why, if you're going to turn around and sit there and say these things, why the hell are you not implementing them?
Or actions.
You know, when a child's been, when a child's been abused in care, and you're in that sort of position where you can do something, but nah, I'll just wait till we get to the substantive hearing, see what happens then.
Okay, so
it shouldn't take for a grandparent to. It shouldn't take for a grandparent to have to stand up in court and turn around and say, "Well, yeah, why can't you do something under the Act?" Get told, "No, you can't." Turn around and mention, "Well, what about Section 82?" Get stopped and then the OT part is told, "Okay, if that happens to that child again, they will be moved."
And
okay, but here's the catch-22. Don't put it in your minutes, though. You know, and also, you know, it's very, very hidden within the court system. What I mean by that, okay, is yes, I've released a lot of different stuff on the internet through different websites and through YouTube. Okay, wouldn't have to be done if they knew how to be honest about stuff instead of, okay, let's tell you lies in the court. When we release the minutes, they'll be completely different. Okay, they won't state what we told you in the court. So. And then because you release something, okay, well, now you can't bring your cell phones into the court because you might record the court proceedings. Well, they're supposed to be recorded anyway. So why is it that when why is it that when you request the recordings, there's none?
You won't get them. Oh, that happened to me. You know, right at the start of my 5-hour hearing with a traffic ticket, right at the start of the hearing, I put an application in to record it. They refused it, and the judge promised me, Judge Nicola Mathers promised me that I would be getting a full copy of the court transcript for the hearing. She leaned forward to the court taker and checked with the court taker that the court audio recording system was working. And a week later, I get a minute saying, due to human error, unfortunately, the court audio recording system wasn't working. Well, really? But she and I know that they checked it at the start of the hearing. What luck that my phone accidentally still recorded the entire trial. They lost. They failed. And it's part of the court's rules that they must keep a permanent court record. So why can't they stick to their own rules?
Yeah. And the thing is, like that was what my daughter put in for, to get the audio recordings and transcripts. Okay, she was told no, she could not have them. Okay, Timothy Black, he declined it. Okay, and he declined it while we were in there. Okay, and so they turn around and say no, you can't get it. But here's the catch-22. If you can't get it, does that not mean it did get recorded when you just got told it didn't? Because how can you turn around and say to someone you can't have it unless you did it, unless you've done the recording? So there must have been a recording.
You can't have something that doesn't exist. So for them to say you can't have it means it exists, not that it wasn't.
Well, in a way, I suppose you can have something that doesn't exist because we've got a family court justice system that doesn't exist. It's just a mockery of people behind closed doors. You know, and so yeah, so that's where we're at now with what's happening with us. And so it's one of those things where, because we have to wait, this is why, for me, I sit on the side, I watch what's happening on places like Facebook, because I don't have Instagram, wouldn't have a clue how to use it. But when I see people asking for help, that's why I decide, well, I'll put the thing out and just see if they want some help, because you just get sick and tired of seeing so many families torn apart for reasons that are really just bullshit. And it's just the social workers had a report of concern come in, but hey, we can't find anything in regards to that report of concern. But let's dig a bit deeper and see what we can dig up on you. Never mind the fact that probably, we've probably got about 90% of whanau out there that actually aren't doing anything wrong. There's always going to be whanau out there that will need the help because they are having trouble. But for the ones that haven't actually done anything wrong, why the hell are they penalised?
Exactly.
And why are they
the other thing is they'll look through the file and they'll look through everything and they'll say, we can't find anything, but never mind. We've got lying ass social workers that'll just make some shit up because we don't care about evidence in the family court. You guys just go ahead and make up what you like, as long as it suits, as long as we can break that family apart and destroy them and, generational fucking damage.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, that's why I was saying I would love to be able to get a whanau group together over the generations and actually get an interview from them to show the generational impact it has. Because realistically, what happens is, kids of today that are having their children are judged on the fact of what happened generations before. That's really what happened. And so when it comes down to it, there could actually be nothing that that new young whanau has done wrong. But hey, mum and dad, nana and granddad, they had a history, so you must be going to have one just because you're related. And so why don't we turn that back on the judges and on the court staff and go, well, what's happened with your family besides privilege? Because really, that's what it comes down to. Well, that's my way of looking at it, because of the fact that there's not many Pākehā families out there that have gone through it, but some of the ones that go through it, even they shouldn't be going through it because of the fact that it's just social workers being picky. And I think the other thing that makes it so much harder at the moment, if you go back about 10 years ago, I doubt very much you would have had the intakes you got now, simply based on the fact that we've got new social workers out there that have just graduated school, and they're out just like the new cops, trying to prove themselves. Problem is, in the meantime, we've got whanau out there that have to wear it because of the fact that I need to prove myself, so your child's coming with me. Never mind the fact that you did nothing wrong. The fact is, I've got to prove myself, because if I don't bring the child back, then my supervisor is going to put me on desk duty and get another social worker to come and see you anyway. So I might as well just say I've got to take the child, even though I don't agree with it. And this is the interesting thing with our case. There's now been a new social worker, and the interesting thing was, we asked for a list of concerns, we got them. Work this out. What does what I'm wearing have to do with the safety of a child?
Bugger all.
Exactly. But we do not like that you have anti-OT clothing. We do not like these sorts of things. Well, get over yourself.
We're going to attack your free speech while we're at it.
Yeah, and so the amazing thing was we got this list of what the protection concerns were. It's a pity they dated right back to the original ones where the new social worker had no clue. And so when it came to the contact hearing, she had half those concerns. So it was put to her, but why did you take half the list and take it away? Her answer, because I didn't believe those were valid concerns, especially the clothing one. You can wear what you want to.
Oh, so it's just her belief.
But
it's just a belief that she can alter.
But no, this wasn't the social worker's belief. This was the supervisor's. So the supervisor had this big long list, that we got sent. By the time it got to court, the social worker in her affidavit had half them. And so we're sitting there trying to figure out, the affidavit is like half the length of concerns. What's going on? And so she put it to her, And that was the answer she got. That okay, the concerns that were raised in the original email were not valid concerns as far as the new social worker was concerned.
So she's backing up the fact that they
thing,
uplifted the kid without any bloody justification in the first place, because they weren't valid concerns.
that and the fact of like she came straight out and said like she got asked for an example. She said, "Well, what you wear is up to you." She goes, "You have your freedom to express yourself." And she goes, "And if that's the way you want to do that, then we can't stop you doing that." She goes, "So no, I didn't agree with that." And it was like, okay, maybe this one might make a difference. But then I came across another case, another person that lives local, okay, had exactly the same social worker and only had her for 2.5 weeks. And the reason she had her for 2.5 weeks was for exactly the same thing. They had all of these concerns and she disagreed with them. She disagreed with her superiors.
So she got rid of.
No, they kept her on. She's still there, but she couldn't stay on that case. So I'm wondering how long she'll be staying on this case, because the first thing I said to my daughter and my partner after we left the court was, I wonder how long she'll be on your case. Because she's just pretty much put them under the bus.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what ends up happening there. But it's just when these social workers go out, if they can't do an honest job about it, then they shouldn't be in the job. But then like I put it to someone the other day, okay, it doesn't matter what you do, okay, this new board they got in place, okay, obviously they're not doing much either, because the so-called triangle for Uplift is supposed to be social worker, moves over to Oranga Tamariki board, okay, Oranga Tamariki board finalise it to go to the court and get the order. So this one that happened down in Christchurch, it makes me wonder, because the signature on it, like I said, is not a judge's signature, okay, because there's nothing under it saying it's from a judge. It just says it's an issuing officer. And I said to her, okay, so my belief of an issuing officer after looking it up is more than likely a supervisor or a site manager has signed off on it.
And not a judge.
And not a judge.
So it's an invalid.
Because the thing that people aren't aware of, okay, you know how they do court orders, right? Okay. So naturally the judge puts out his minutes court order. Okay. Now, a place of safety warrant, when they do those, it's a copy and paste of the Oranga Tamariki forms online. It's online. Okay. You can actually, people type in Oranga Tamariki Act, okay, type in Oranga Tamariki forms, okay, when you go into it, one of the first ones is place of safety warrant. Okay, so you got your place of safety warrant, and then you got your application. Okay, so they got to, like, literally, all they're doing is and this is what they do. They get them all out, they put the kid's name on it, on the application. Okay, it comes up with their name on the place of safety warrant as well. Okay, but it has the name of the children. It has the premises they could be at. Okay. Now the lady that did the uplift down in Christchurch, she stated to the people, we can search any residence we like. Wrong. The place of safety warrant actually states where the addresses you can go and check for the child. Okay. It does, and she said, and we can, from the 21st, we can do it for as many days as we want. Once again, wrong. Section 45 says that once that warrant's been issued, you've got 5 days to go back with that child, go back and tell the court that you've now picked up that child. Hence why in the Hastings case, when they did the place of safety warrant, okay, what they did was they turned around and their lawyer put through.
Sorry. The Hastings one you're talking about with the Melanie Reid who exposed it all out, yeah?
We're Melanie Reid exposed it all, okay? Yeah. But what they did there, if you listen to the phone conversation, was when Janet Mason was on the line, okay, what ended up happening was they had obviously got the place of safety warrant, okay, but then they had gone back and told the court, we have the child, which gave them the 78-1, which is the interim custody. Okay, so they turned up with an interim custody order.
Problem was, they had uplifted the kid.
Well, problem was that when they put that across and showed the uplift order, okay, and she was on the phone, Janet told them that their lawyer had said that the baby was in their custody. But I think it was Rebecca lady, the midwife. Yes. She goes, well, that's not true, because the baby's on mum right now.
They haven't taken the
kid. And so she turned around and she said, right, I'm filing for this in those orders. Yeah, they didn't have the child, but they said that they told the court they did. Yeah. So again, that's why she applied to rescind the orders.
Flat out lied.
Yeah, and that's the problem. They straight out lied, and it became really obvious on that video when she turned around and she says, "Oh, but they've said that they've got the child." No, because Mum's holding the child now, and that's why she turned around and she said, "I suggest you go and seek to the social worker." She said, "I suggest you go and seek legal advice because I've just made an application to rescind those orders. So I believe you have no right to be able to pick that child up now."
Yep, exactly right.
You know,
And,
on video they turn around and be stupid enough to do
now
that.
They're going after Melanie. They're trying to shut her down. So they're actually attacking the reporter that showed the fault, that outraged the entire bloody country. And instead of dealing with the problems, they go after the reporter.
Oh, yeah, because it's easier to deal with people that you can sue than it is to turn around and go, you know what, our system's screwed, we need to fix it.
Yeah, again.
You know,
so
and at the end of the
they
day,
will never accept fault. They will never accept they've done something wrong.
I honestly believe that if we can't get change to the system, we've got another 50, 60 years ahead of it. Because that's what's going to end up happening. Nobody's making any changes. I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, like, in all honesty, hey, I contacted Matthew Tukaki when this was all happening. I got promised all of the stuff under the sun. Okay, they would go down and deal with the law.
Matthew Tukaki, just for the listeners.
Matthew Tukaki is the, I think he's the chairperson of the Māori Council.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I turned around and they told me to keep following up with them. Okay, this was at the time when they were still establishing that board. Okay, right. And so I got told there was different things that they could do. Okay, one of them was they could turn around and apparently they had 101 people's files, and I'm pretty sure it was from the lower head office that they were taking in to put in front of Kelvin Davis to get him to sign off to say the Māori Council, because under Section 18 of the Māori Community Services Act, the Māori Council can turn around and intervene judicially. Okay, and so I thought, okay, well, let's see what happens here. Hopefully, they can help her get out of harm's way.
You're wanting
and
help.
It ended up being I got told. Sorry,
I'm just saying you're wanting help. Isn't that what they're supposed to do?
Yeah, and so what ended up happening was we kept on following up on it, which is what we were told to do. And then his offsider, Brent Andrews, which is part of the Māori Council, okay, I was contacting him because I couldn't get hold of Matthew to find out where things were going. And he said, yep, those things are still getting there. They're progressing bit by bit. But you see, when someone tells you, like Matthew, from my opinion, made out to me, that if we get onto this quickly, we can hopefully have it solved in 3 to 4 weeks. Okay, we're now months later. Okay, and after speaking to Brent Andrews about it, at one stage, because I had put the email up that we received and redacted it all, sure. Okay, to say that it was just a normal, what do you call it, normal auto reply, okay, from the actual board, okay, and because I put that up, I'm causing waves, okay, and it's like, okay, and then I turned around and I rang him and said, okay, can you give me an update? He goes, no, I won't give you an update because you're causing waves. And I turned around and said, I don't understand what you're talking about. He goes, we told you we would be able to help you. I was like, yeah, you're just going to have to wait and give time. And I said to him, look, don't take this the wrong way, but how much time does it take? I was originally told 3 to 4 weeks and this would be more than likely over. We are now coming into 2 to 3 months. So what's happening? And he got really mad. And then he turned around and he said to me, do you understand what we are trying to do? I said, yes, I'm quite clear about what you're trying to do. Okay, you guys have told me you've been to the lower head office, you're sorting stuff out. I said, the problem is talking, but you don't see action. Yeah. And he turned around and he made a comment to me, and I turned around and said to him, look, you guys are the ones who told me to contact you and keep up to date. This is what I'm doing. Well, we're not prepared to do much for you now. And if you're going to keep going on like this, or going on like what? He goes, I will prosecute you. So I got mad and went, so do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
He said, don't talk about the damn thing, do it. Yeah. I said to him, that may be the one thing you'll actually do.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, so I just said to him, that may be the one thing you'll actually do.
Yeah, go for
it.
And,
yeah. So, I mean, because to me, I mean, if he wanted to do that, that's no problem. It's not so hard to find in the High Court to defend yourself now. So, if he wanted to do that, it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
And what they forget, okay, what all of these government agencies forget, okay, is they're not the only one with the written documentation. Okay, but it just goes to show that when they say they're going to do something and they don't fulfill their end, and you call them out on it, okay, all of a sudden we're going to prosecute you.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Threaten legal action.
I mean, I've always said, okay, if it comes down to it, and if I had to go to jail for my granddaughter to come home, I'll quite happily do that.
Yeah.
Quite happily do that, because she's got more of a life to live than I have. And the way I look at it is, okay, I can look after myself, whereas she can't. She's too small to defend herself.
Of course.
And so, but I looked at it from the point of view that if it came to that, I'd quite happily do that, because the first phone call I'd do is turn around, I'd make a phone call to media of some sort and just turn around and say, look at that. How does it work out? A grandfather's trying to be able to turn around and help his granddaughter get to safety, and he gets chucked in jail. Work that one out.
Yeah.
But if that's what it took, I'd be quite happy to do that.
One other thing, Brent, you mentioned about abuse under the caregiver's care. Again, for the listeners, how many times has your granddaughter been abused while in Oranga Tamariki's care?
Okay, so going by the write-ups that have been done by professionals, okay, six times from...
This is their own documents, yeah? This is going by the own
documents. This is not from us. This is from Oranga Tamariki documents.
This is from the evidence that you've seen.
Yes, so from their own files, okay, and from police files, okay, police won't do anything about it either, okay. The reason the police won't do anything about it, okay, Oranga Tamariki involved, and when they're involved, it's dealt with differently.
Well, there's a memorandum of understanding between Oranga Tamariki and the police. If Oranga Tamariki are at fault, the police are not allowed to do anything.
Yeah, so in total so far, okay, this is what's on record. There's from the time, okay, when my daughter had to leave the hospital, which was April 27th, 2020. Okay, so from then until when was it? Till September the 28th, when it first got brought out, six times.
5 months. So that's
okay,
5 months.
Big investigation done.
5 months, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, 6 times. Okay, and so you've got from April, so 5 months, 6 times. Okay, that was admitted to. Okay, now we keep getting told these are allegations. Allegations are only allegations when someone doesn't say I did it. Okay, when the source is when the source of where the complaint is coming from is the person telling a medical staff I did this, that's not an allegation. That's actually admitted. The only reason that it's not going down as being admitted, because nobody will charge you. Okay, so what's ended up happening is there's those 6 times. Okay, they did their investigation, which took 20 days apparently. Okay, which was pretty strange because under their act they're only allowed to take 10 days. So they did that. Then what ended up happening was that got basically swept under the carpet. Okay, and after being hit 6 times, deemed safe in the caregiver's care. Okay, they put a thing in place from, I can't remember the agency. I think it was Home for Life or something. It was some agency that it was support. Okay, she had to have support in regards to it. 1 visit. I don't want you anymore. Okay, so as long as she accepted the 1 visit,
because she can refuse their assistance and tell them to fuck off. It's not mandatory.
Yes, and the difference is, okay, this is not hearsay. This was my daughter made a call to the agency and got the head person in Wellington, and the head person in Wellington for the agency confirmed she no longer wanted the support anymore. Okay, so then what happened was we went through the records again, okay, and then we discovered, okay, there's been another disclosure. Now this is the strange part. The same community DHB worker twice does the report of concern. Okay. Now, one of the heads of whanau already.
The same community worker does the report of concern against who? Against the caregiver, or is it the one that did the concern against you to begin with?
Yeah. So we've got the one back in September, okay, last year, and then we got the one in February, both from the same DHB worker. Okay. Now, here's the strange part. All 3 reported concerns in regards to this child, including my daughter's one, same DHB, same department. Okay, so it's not different parts of the hospital, same department, pediatrics.
All skullduggery
so
going on there.
It sort of makes you start questioning. Yeah. And so that was what made us look up, and we found out that, okay, they actually have a, like I put it up on the internet, a Uplift plan for how it works from the hospital.
Sure.
There's actually an Uplift plan from the DHB. And so I put that up to be able to show people this is what happens if they're colluding behind your back to be able to take the child. But so from there, so that was 7 times altogether. Okay. Then we got the OIA files again from OT, and we found in one of the, they do those 8 weekly reports checking up, okay, that the same caregiver admitted to hitting the child, okay, 6 times since birth, okay, until she was 2 years old. Taking into account, she didn't take over the care of the child fully, like in her care, till 28 months old. Okay, so that put us at 13 times since birth in a 3-year. And at that stage, she was only 29 months old, so she wasn't 3 years old.
So there was another 7 times on top of the 6 initial.
So the 7 that we first knew about that was on the OT files. Okay, it came out in the OT files as well afterwards. That when they did their plan, that she was talking about the fact that she had there was 6 times from birth to 2 years old. She didn't have her then. My daughter did.
So
okay, so these could only have happened during the contact.
Yeah. So well,
yeah, because the mother had supervised the father having the contact. Okay, they say no, she wasn't supervising; she was just there to overlook it. But what do you call it when the parent, the grandparent's got to oversee the parent? And so,
same thing.
Yeah, so by that stage you're up to 13 times. Now, what's really bad, because the police wouldn't do it, I helped my daughter file a private prosecution in regards to it. Okay,
Yeah.
It's taken December last year to in the last 3 weeks for that to be turned down. We sent it away. The first judge turned around and said, "Okay, it's missing this." So we put what they said, because naturally we hadn't done one before. So learning curve. So then we sent that away, and it came back from a Judge Doyle that you needed a statement. Put a statement in there. Okay, so that was sweet. Wondering why is it taking so long? It's still going. Inquire with the court who it's gone back in front of back at the Hutt Valley Court. It's gone in front of Timothy Black.
Yeah.
Well, hold on a minute. How is he dealing with a criminal case when he's also dealing with the family court case?
Can we say conflict of interest? Can we say bias?
Well, here's the thing. Even the court staff said that, okay, if that's the case, Judge Black will have to recuse himself from it. He did not.
Of course he did.
He sent out minutes, and he quoted that he is dealing with the family court case that she's involved in.
So he's wearing 2 separate hats.
Yeah.
And yet when he's in the
So
family
it's like,
court,
well,
when you're telling him about abuse in the family court, he doesn't have the jurisdiction to deal with abuse because he's got the wrong hat on.
Yeah, and that's what he quoted. That's what he quoted to my daughter on a teleconference at one stage. Apparently, was, "I'm sorry, but yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I don't have jurisdiction to deal with that." Okay, so why is it that you can turn around and change your hat when you feel like it? You know, the reality is the court staff had said he will need to recuse himself because he's doing the family court case. He did not do that. He has dealt with it and said that the application for a private prosecution was declined.
And when it shouldn't have been.
Now, if that's not people in power taking advantage of the power they have, I don't know what is.
Yeah, absolutely, it's abuse of power.
You know, especially things as in the minutes that we got for our case of entering, he's even quoted in there that we have made the court aware of her being hurt all the time, and that we are justified in being fearful for her. So if we're justified in being fearful for her, why the hell don't you move her like we asked?
Exactly. If they're even admitting
exactly
you've got reasonable grounds for your concern, why are they still leaving the kid under their Oranga Tamariki's care with that caregiver? That's hit the child.
And here's the
a lot more than
and here's the kicker of it all. the kicker of it all is this, okay? They turned around and they had a 24/7 watch at the hospital with my daughter because they said when she was in there that she may not give her the feeds or she may interfere with feeds and everything like that. Okay, now that was at the hospital. Okay, once the second complaint was made in regards to the 26th of February this year, when the complaint came in about her being hit again. Okay, if a agency like OT needs to put in a 24/7 watch to keep an eye on the caregiver in their own house, wouldn't that be grounds for care and protection?
Well,
You'd think so. But
I would push that OT are negligent in their care to begin with if they're leaving them there, especially if they're well aware.
yeah, so and what's silly about it, okay, is there is records, and we have this documented, where the person who investigated the last one, okay, placed in there that they need to look at reintegrating her back to her maternal whanau because the caregiver cannot meet her developmental needs.
So what the?
But they've just given a report out stating that, yeah, and work this out. They turn around and put in there in the latest lot, okay, the latest communication, that they're looking at supplying support for the caregiver and the father. Okay, even though we've got it and we've got documentation to say we need to return this child back to whom we need. The words are we need to reintegrate her back to her maternal whanau as her developmental needs and her feeding needs are not being met by the caregiver. But to cover it up, they've turned around and said that we must turn around and give support in the placement. Okay. And we found out that they had applied for an S101, Home for Life, okay? And in the documentation, there's an email from Wellington Placement saying, no, we cannot consider Home for Life. However, we can look at respite care. So they're trying to tell the court, we need a 101, knowing that they can't place the child.
And the whole
and this is what I mean. We've got stuff in the latest files that, yeah, and so basically, let's do it this way so we can cover up the fact that we stuffed up.
Yep. Anything to cover one's ass.
So yeah. Oh, my internet's gone. What happened?
It's all right. You're still there. I can still see you.
But yeah.
Perhaps.
So yeah. So do you want to stop this one and do another one? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, we'll stop this one and I'll chuck you another link and we'll do another round on the legislature side of things. And